So, you guys are on the road in support of Horizons East. Came out late last year. To have that come out in 2021, did you record that during the pandemic? It was when a lot of those sessions happened.
Yeah, we recorded it and wrote it during the pandemic, and it was slow going. I just think it was such a weird time. It was like the whole thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, you can get everything done and do all the things," and you're like, "No, this is horrible." And so it was, I think it was just a slow writing process for us.
We didn't see each other for a while, so we were like kind of writing remotely, like collaborating, but just from our own houses or whatever. And then when we started finally getting together, it was pretty far into the process, right? Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, we have, some of us have immunocompromised family members, so we were having to be really careful, and so it was a little rough, but came together.
In terms of some of the processes you were using, I mean, was there anything that you found that maybe you didn't think about that worked, that you'd mix into different albums, or is that an era to leave in the past?
We kind of were fairly well set up to write like that because the past two records we were not all in the same spot. Yeah, both because Ed was in LA but yeah, so we'd written the previous two having a decent amount of the time like we weren't in the same place, so we kind of developed this thing where we were able to share these parts and then get together, actually jam on them, they move forward, take them back home, and it's a bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, now in terms of the writing process itself, you've spoken about how I guess you went in sort of with more open-minded in the way that your faith played into your writing. So what was kind of your mindset with songwriting when you were putting this album together?
Like lyrically?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just always kind of writing from the place I'm at the time. So the place I've been at has shifted a ton in the last 10 years, and I'm, as always, trying to be honest with that and trying to, I think really writing is a way of distilling a lot of thoughts and experiences that have happened in the time between records. And so a lot of times as I'm writing or when I finish writing, I'm like, oh, that's the thing that I've been like wrestling with. Like, there it is now. Like it's on the page. It's in the song. So that I think I've always tried to do that and be poetic and layered about it. But I think trying to keep a connection to where you're actually at is always helpful. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to write autobiographically, but there's a way of putting yourself into songs even when it's something you haven't actually experienced yourself directly or something. But I don't think it's a super different process than other ones.
And also celebrating an anniversary, 20 years of the Illusion of Safety album. Do you get a chance to go back and listen to those songs? I'm sure fans. I'm sure are so tied into these songs. But do you ever listen back and remember those sessions, putting those together?
Well, we had to because we played the record at Furnace Fest and we're playing 4 shows in Southern California. We had to relearn those. And a lot of them we hadn't played in years. One of them we had never played live. 2? Oh, okay. I'm surprised about that one. We'd played part of one. 1.5 we hadn't played live. It's kind of a trip. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be once we actually figured out all the parts.
No, it was fun. It just, I think especially for me, like, I just didn't stop on that record. I don't know. Youthful energy, I guess, that I just don't have anymore. So it was, I kind of had to like relearn how to play guitar in that way, honestly. Like I feel like I've changed so much as a guitar player that, it was a trip. But
yeah.
I mean, you're literally riffing the entire record.
Yeah. Now, to play the album in a festival setting like that, as a band, what's it like? Mixing up your set like that, where you're you're playing a different set than you normally might, and it's one piece.
I mean, a big problem with that record is it changes from drop tuning to normal tuning like every other song for the first like 2/3 of the record. Like it's so we actually I had never had one, but we installed the hip shot like extender where you can drop to C or whatever. And that was the only way we could do it and have it flow at all. So that was interesting. And then it was kind of weird playing on all those songs on a giant stage because we had only ever were made when we were playing like tiny club shows and everyone's like pressed onto the stage, and it's just a very different feeling playing it like that separated. So that was a little weird.
And like we'd never been to Furnace Fest, but like all the footage I'd seen of it was like in the hangar, and it was like all these wild hardcore shows, And so I was like, okay, this will be kind of fun in that setting, whatever. And then we got there, and it was actually like a separate stage that was outside of that, and it was like a big festival type setup, kind of like we have here today. And so it was kind of like, oh wait, this is not what I imagined it to be.
Now, 20 years later, you referenced your own guitar playing. How do you feel that you've grown as musicians, as a band? Do you feel like you have more creative freedom 20 years later to do the things you want? How has the experience changed for you over that time?
I don't think I'd say we have more freedom, especially because when we were making that, nobody was telling us. I mean, we've been pretty lucky. We haven't had a lot of the horror stories, even going through a major where there was people being like, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like, we were pretty lucky with that stuff. But, I mean, looking back at that record, there are some cool things that happen on it. Like, we've been like talking about like, why did we do this? Like, that's kind of, it's really weird. Like, what? And we're trying to like figure out like, what were we even thinking when we did this key change, and like, how did that come about? I think a lot of it was like, we were like, well, we got these two parts, we're gonna put them back to back, even though like they're 30 beats per minute different and in a different key. And it was just, we're like, we will make this work, and we'd figure out a weird way to make it work, and then it's kind of interesting. So, and there's a lot of really like, I don't know if you'd say linear or non-linear, because it's kind of, well, but in a sense though, I guess, all right, it's not going in a straight line. Like, there's a weird structure happening in a lot of the songs. Things not repeating ever. Like, you hit this part, and then this part, then this part, then this part, and then you switch keys, and then you hit a totally different time, and then it's over. Like, and it's like, but there's something kind of interesting about that. And so as we've learned, like, and gravitated towards some more traditional like song formats, like, it's also cool to remember like, oh, this is cool. Like, maybe we can reincorporate some of that stuff too.